Just moments before, the judge had delivered a ruling that sent shockwaves through the courtroom, a decision that many saw as a grave miscarriage of justice. The verdict, handed down with a heavy tone and finality, had not only disappointed Karoline, but also ignited a spark of dissent among her supporters. Murmurs of disbelief rippled across the room as legal experts and onlookers exchanged troubled glances. The ruling, controversial and seemingly influenced by hidden pressures, appeared to sideline critical evidence and favor the opposing narrative. For Karoline, it was the culmination of a system that had long disregarded the truth in favor of expedience and power. Her heart pounded with a mix of frustration and resolve as she absorbed the judge's words, knowing deep down that the scales of justice had been unbalanced. In that charged moment, the injustice of the decision hung in the air, a stark reminder of the uphill battle she faced. Yet, even as the ruling threatened to seal her fate, it also set the stage for a dramatic twist, a last-minute revelation that promised to turn the tide and challenge the very foundation of the decision just rendered. As the weight of the ruling settled in the courtroom, Karoline felt a tempest of emotions brewing within her. Behind her steely exterior, doubts and indignation warred with fierce determination. Every word of the verdict echoed in her mind, stoking memories of endless nights spent wrestling with evidence and the relentless pursuit of truth. Her heart pounded with both sorrow for the injustice done and a burning resolve to fight back. In that quiet internal battle, she questioned not only the fairness of the system, but also the sacrifices she had made to get to this point. Every sleepless night, every risk taken, now crystallized into a moment of profound personal reckoning. With each breath, Karoline's inner turmoil transformed into a powerful drive, a silent vow that she would not let this setback define her. The fire of determination in her eyes revealed a woman who, despite the crushing disappointment, was ready to rally every ounce of strength to turn the tide and reclaim justice. In the midst of the emotional storm, a flicker of hope emerged as Karoline recalled a crucial lead that had been tucked away until now. Late that evening, while reviewing archived documents in the quiet solitude of her temporary workspace, she uncovered an anomaly, a series of hidden financial records and confidential emails that painted a damning picture of collusion. Her pulse quickened as she pieced together the timeline and connections, realizing that this overlooked evidence was the missing link needed to overturn the flawed ruling. Every meticulously stored file and each time-stamped email resonated with the possibility of restoring justice. Karoline knew that despite the risks, this revelation was too significant to ignore. With a sense of urgency, she gathered the physical copies and digital backups, ensuring that every piece was securely documented. As she assembled the new evidence, her resolve crystallized. This was not merely a legal maneuver, but a decisive stand against a system that had long prioritized expedience over truth. In that moment, the battle line was redrawn. Karoline would take this evidence to the very heart of the courtroom, determined to reverse the ruling and reclaim the integrity of justice. The revelation of the new evidence came at a critical juncture. Time was running out. With the trial's final moments rapidly approaching, Karoline felt the pressure mounting like a physical force. Every tick of the courtroom clock amplified her determination, reminding her that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to overturn a grave injustice. In the quiet backstage corridors of the courthouse, her legal team whispered frantic plans and last-minute strategies. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew increasingly charged, as if the very air anticipated the imminent upheaval. Karoline's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the intense urgency of seizing this fleeting moment. She knew that if she hesitated, the window to introduce the critical evidence would close forever, cementing a ruling that defied justice. With her resolve hardened by the mounting pressure, she prepared herself to break through the procedural barriers and present the new evidence, fully aware that every second counted in this final stand for truth. Just as the courtroom reached a fevered pitch of anticipation, an unexpected pause was called. The judge, recognizing the gravity of Karoline's impending revelation, announced a brief recess. The air seemed to hold its breath as murmurs spread through the gallery, each person sensing that something momentous was about to unfold. In the hushed moments of the break, Karoline's legal team quickly huddled, exchanging urgent glances and whispered strategies. The temporary lull allowed the tension to build even further. Time was no longer a passive element, but an active adversary, ticking relentlessly towards an uncertain climax. Outside the courtroom doors, aides and reporters congregated, speculating on the potential impact of the new evidence. Meanwhile, inside, the silence was punctuated only by the soft shuffle of papers and the measured breaths of those who awaited the next move. It was in this charged interlude, a brief suspended moment, But the stage was being set for Karoline to challenge the ruling head-on, knowing that every second was critical in the battle for justice. As the recess ended, the courtroom braced itself for what could be the turning point of the trial. With every eye fixed on her, Karoline stepped back to the podium. The atmosphere was electric, a blend of apprehension and anticipation, as if the room itself was holding its breath. In a single decisive motion, she laid out the new evidence before the judge and the assembled crowd. The documents, meticulously organized and sealed in a secure folder, were displayed on a portable digital device. With deliberate precision, she tapped the screen to reveal a series of confidential emails, financial statements, and time-stamped records that irrefutably connected key figures to the very misconduct the ruling had sought to conceal. The courtroom fell silent. The judge's eyes flickered from the glowing screen to Karoline's unwavering gaze, and even the stern faces of the prosecution softened into expressions of disbelief. Every piece of evidence was presented with an intensity that transcended words, a visual narrative of corruption and hidden agendas that could no longer be ignored. Karoline's voice, steady and resolute, resonated through the hall as she explained the significance of each document. "This is the truth that has been kept in the shadows," she declared, her tone both defiant and measured. "It is the key to rectifying this injustice and restoring faith in our system." In that moment, the evidence transformed from mere pages into a powerful testament against the injustice of the initial ruling, leaving the entire courtroom stunned and setting the stage for an imminent reversal. For a long moment after Karoline's revelation, the courtroom seemed to freeze in time. The judge, whose demeanor had until now been the epitome of controlled authority, struggled to process the cascade of irrefutable evidence before him. His eyes, wide with a mixture of shock and disbelief, shifted rapidly between the digital screen and Karoline's unwavering gaze. In that charged silence, his furrowed brow and hesitant, almost imperceptible, jaw movement spoke volumes. This was a decision he had not anticipated. The weight of the new evidence pressed upon him, challenging his earlier ruling and the very foundation of the proceedings. His hand, once steady on the gavel, trembled ever so slightly as he reached for it, as if to regain control over a situation that was rapidly spiraling beyond his authority. A murmur of awe and apprehension rippled through the courtroom, as even the most stoic observers sensed that a dramatic shift was imminent. The judge's internal struggle was palpable. He was caught between the rigid demands of legal precedent and the undeniable force of truth that Karoline had so powerfully unveiled. In that moment, the future of the trial, and perhaps the integrity of the entire system, hung precariously in the balance, awaiting his next decisive move. Almost immediately following the judge's stunned pause, the prosecution scrambled to regain control of the narrative. Their once confident demeanors faltered as they frantically debated among themselves, searching for a way to discredit Karoline's damning evidence. One attorney lunged forward, attempting to question the authenticity of the documents, while another interjected with claims of procedural irregularities. Their voices, however, lacked their previous conviction. Each argument met with skeptical murmurs from the gallery and furrowed expressions from the jurors. The prosecution's rapid-fire objections, ranging from assertions of tampered records to allegations of chain-of-custody violations, were swiftly countered by Karoline's legal team, who provided immediate, compelling rebuttals. As the room buzzed with anxious energy, it became clear that the prosecution's desperate maneuvers were not enough to overshadow the overwhelming clarity of the new evidence. Their attempts to sow doubt and confusion only served to reinforce the credibility of Karoline's revelation, leaving the courtroom increasingly sympathetic to the pursuit of justice. With the courtroom still reeling from the barrage of rapid objections, a fierce legal and emotional debate erupted. Karoline's attorney, calm yet impassioned, stepped forward to articulate the profound implications of the newly unveiled evidence. His words sliced through the murmur of dissent, methodically dismantling every challenge posed by the prosecution. On one side of the room, the prosecution's arguments grew increasingly desperate as they attempted to twist legal technicalities into justifications for dismissing the evidence. Their tone, a mix of legal jargon and frayed nerves, betrayed their mounting anxiety. On the other side, Karoline's team, bolstered by the clarity and gravity of the documents, pressed on with unwavering determination. As the debate deepened, the courtroom transformed into a battleground where legal precision met raw emotion. Karoline's own voice resonated with both scholarly insight and personal passion as she testified about the context and the personal sacrifices behind each piece of evidence. Her words carried the weight of not just legal truth, but moral conviction, stirring the hearts of many in the audience. The exchange became a microcosm of the broader struggle, a confrontation between those clinging to a flawed system and those fighting for transparency and reform. Every pointed question and measured response underscore the high stakes at play, leaving the judge visibly torn as he navigated the complex interplay of law and conscience. In that charged moment, the courtroom was not merely a venue for legal proceedings, but a stage upon which the true battle for justice was being waged. Amid the escalating debate, the judge retreated into a private battle of conscience. His eyes, now clouded with uncertainty, scanned the courtroom as he weighed the gravity of Karoline's evidence against the established legal order he was sworn to uphold. Inside, he wrestled with a tumultuous mix of duty, remorse, and a dawning recognition that the truth might indeed demand a course correction. Every objection from the prosecution and every passionate plea from Karoline's team reverberated within him. In his mind, the scales of justice, long tilted by precedent and unspoken alliances, began to tremble. He recalled his own commitment to fairness and the solemn oath he had taken to uphold the law. Now, with undeniable proof challenging the ruling he had earlier delivered, his resolve to remain impartial was met with a fierce internal struggle. In that quiet moment of reflection, the judge's furrowed brow and the subtle tension in his hands betrayed his inner turmoil. The rigid boundaries of procedure clashed with a burgeoning sense of moral responsibility. As the courtroom watched with bated breath, it became clear that the judge was on the cusp of a decision that would not only redefine the case at hand but also reshape his own legacy as a guardian of justice. After a prolonged moment of intense deliberation, the judge slowly set aside his gavel and took a deep, steadying breath. The courtroom held its collective breath as he finally spoke, his voice resonating with both authority and a newfound resolve. In light of the compelling evidence presented, he declared, pausing to let his words sink in, I am reversing my previous ruling. A stunned silence fell over the room, quickly giving way to a murmur of disbelief and cautious hope. The judge continued, outlining how the newly uncovered documents and digital records had exposed critical errors in the initial decision, errors that could no longer be overlooked in the pursuit of true justice. His words, measured yet powerful, affirmed that the integrity of the legal process must always prevail over flawed precedent and hidden agendas. In that decisive moment, the courtroom transformed. The gravity of the reversal rippled through every seat, every face, marking not only a personal victory for Karoline, but also a triumph for truth over entrenched corruption. As the judge's announcement reverberated, it signaled a monumental shift, one that re-established the very principles of fairness and accountability that had been in peril. The judge's resounding declaration echoed through the now transformed courtroom, igniting an immediate surge of emotion and reaction. For a moment, time seemed to suspend as every attendee absorbed the significance of the reversal. The once tense air was replaced by a palpable mix of relief, astonishment, and cautious optimism. Jurors exchanged wide-eyed glances, and murmurs of approval rippled through the gallery. Some spectators visibly wept with relief while others broke into spontaneous applause, their cheers a testament to the long-awaited vindication of truth. Karoline's eyes shimmered with quiet triumph. The weight of her struggle had been lifted, if only for this moment, as the injustice she had fought against began to unravel. In the wake of the reversal, a profound silence fell over the courtroom, a silence that was as much a celebration as it was a moment of introspection. Karoline stood at the center of this transformation, her gaze steady and her posture exuding quiet strength. The journey to this point had been fraught with obstacles and heartache, but now every hardship seemed to have converged into a single victorious moment. Her eyes, reflecting both relief and renewed determination, met those of her supporters in the gallery. In that fleeting exchange, an unspoken promise passed between them. The fight for justice was far from over, but today, truth had won a significant battle. Karoline's lips curved into a subtle smile, a smile not of arrogance, but of deep satisfaction born from the knowledge that she had pushed back against an entrenched system of corruption. As she gathered her documents and prepared to leave the stand, the courtroom erupted into spontaneous applause. It was a chorus of validation and gratitude from citizens who had long yearned for accountability. With each step she took toward the exit, Karoline carried not just her own triumph, but the hopes of every individual who believe in the power of truth. In that charged moment of triumph, she vowed silently to continue her crusade, to remain vigilant against injustice, and to inspire others to stand up for what was right. Her resolve had not only reshaped the trial, but had ignited a spark that promised to fuel future battles for integrity and reform. As the echoes of applause gradually faded and the courtroom slowly emptied, a lingering tension remained, a quiet reminder that while a pivotal victory had been secured, the struggle for justice was far from over. In the hushed corridors outside the courtroom, whispers of anticipation and unresolved conflict mingled with the cool evening air. Karoline stepped into the dimly lit hallway, her expression thoughtful yet determined. In her mind, she replayed the day's dramatic events, the reversal of a ruling that had once seemed inevitable, the powerful impact of her evidence, and the collective catharsis of a courtroom transformed. Yet beneath this triumph lay the unmistakable undercurrent of an ongoing battle. Deep in the shadows, powerful adversaries were regrouping. Behind closed doors, influential figures and well-connected operatives conspired to mitigate the fallout and preserve the established order. Rumors of secret meetings, legal appeals, and strategic maneuvers began to circulate among Karoline's allies. The victory today was a spark that had ignited a broader movement, one that would challenge systemic injustices far beyond the confines of a single trial. In a quiet moment of reflection, Karoline knew that each step forward would be met with new challenges. Her resolve hardened. She silently vowed that this was only the beginning. The victory in the courtroom had not ended the fight. It had merely set the stage for the next chapter, where every subsequent battle would bring her closer to a more transparent, accountable system of justice. As she glanced up at the night sky, dotted with stars and heavy with promise, Karoline's eyes shone with an unspoken determination. The fight for truth would continue, and she was ready to lead the charge into the battles yet to come. In the days that followed the courtroom drama, Karoline channeled the momentum of her hard-won victory into action. She convened a series of secret meetings with trusted allies, investigative journalists, community organizers, legal experts, and reform-minded activists, each determined to ensure that the reversal of the ruling would not be a fleeting triumph but the catalyst for lasting change. In a warmly lit room filled with maps, digital screens, and scattered documents, strategic plans were laid out. Karoline led the discussions with a clear vision, transforming the courtroom setback into a rallying cry for systemic reform. Every ally shared their own story of struggle and injustice, bonding over a common purpose that transcended individual battles. As plans took shape, new initiatives emerged, a nationwide petition demanding further investigation into corruption, community forums to educate citizens about their rights, and partnerships with grassroots organizations ready to challenge the entrenched power structures. The energy was palpable. Every nod, every determined glance, and every scribbled note on the meeting board testified to a shared resolve that had been ignited by Karoline's revelation. Outside these planning sessions, the public began to respond. Social media buzzed with hashtags of solidarity, and local news outlets picked up the story, amplifying the call for transparency and accountability. Karoline's voice resonated far beyond the confines of the courtroom, inspiring ordinary citizens to believe that a single act of courage could indeed spark a broader movement for change. With every new ally recruited and every initiative launched, the movement grew stronger. Karoline's personal battle had become a beacon for all those seeking justice, a symbol that truth, when championed with unwavering resolve, could dismantle even the most deeply entrenched systems of corruption. And as the first rays of dawn illuminated a hopeful new day, she stood ready to lead her united forces into the next chapter of the fight, knowing that every step taken would bring them closer to a fairer, more accountable society.